Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and today I would like to discuss what we think Capcom should be doing for Resident Evil's 30th anniversary. Obviously, we have the game coming out. We have the very overpriced merch coming out so far. I'm hoping we get more merch. That's definitely going to be a big part of what I'm discussing here. But I would love to know what you guys think we should be getting for the 30th anniversary. Every anniversary, it tends to be admittedly really simple. Like I have the shirts from the 20th and the 25th anniversary. I think during the 20th was when they also did the RE7, or it was like around there when they were doing that RE7 tour with the VR and everything. So I got some stuff from that, and it was like, oh, that's really cool. But we don't tend to get a lot. It's like, hey, here's a t-shirt. It'll say 20th, it'll say 25th. I'm sure there's going to be some new t-shirt that's going to say 30th anniversary. And then that tends to be about it. You get a couple of nice shirts, and then they move on about their business. Obviously, we have a game officially coming out for the anniversary, and it's like, hey, it's genuinely like celebrating the anniversary. All that good stuff I'm very excited for. Of course, there's been rumors for years. I mean, heck, even RE9 has had a million rumors. So the game's going to be like this character's going to show up, who knows. But as far as 30th anniversary stuff, we're hearing, Code Veronica, which I believe should definitely be the case. I would love to see that game get remade. I love Code Veronica personally. But for the 30th anniversary, aside from us actually getting a game and hopefully getting an official announcement at some point during the year, maybe during like Summer Games Fest or something like that, we'll probably hear about the next, whatever the next remake is going to end up being. I think we should have way better merch. Like I know we have, I can barely count this, honestly, because it's really just tied into RE9. I barely counted this like 30th anniversary stuff. But if you saw the last, by the time you guys see this, I'm not sure if they'll do like another deep dive or whatever. But the last gameplay thing that came out for me is when they did the Leon stuff, where it's like, hey, here's a little bit more of the game, and everyone's been talking about how they got to play the Leon demo. So that's the last like big piece of news coverage that's come out for the game as of this recording. So if something else has come out, I'm not sure because I recorded this in advance. But with everything that they've shown, and especially the last showcase that they did, where it's like, hey, here's what we're doing. It's like, all right, it's not really a collector's edition, but here are the collector's edition figures, basically. Here's these really expensive watches. For a second, let's be honest, I wouldn't have been shocked if they're like, yeah, and you can just buy the car. You could buy the jacket for like $1,200 every other game. So Capcom loves doing that with the jackets. Like they had it for RE6, they had it for Dead Rising 2, Devil May Cry 5 had it for, I think, I think it was for Virgil, Dante, and Nero. Maybe it was V, but you could actually get their real jackets. And of course, they were like legit leather jackets, which a leather, like full-on jacket that goes all the way down to your effing legs costs thousands of dollars. So they didn't really do that where they're like, hey, you can buy the Leon jacket, but I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe at this point, it's like, for tariff prices and all that stuff, they're like, we're just not going to bother. That's probably why admittedly, that could be a part of why they didn't do a full-on collector's edition, because they know that all they're going to do is end up paying giant fees on stuff that's admittedly, it was already way overpriced, even when it was the last 4 games. They did for 2, 3, 7, or not 7, 2, 3, and 8, and 4. That's what it was. So it was the last 4 games. So it was like, maybe that was a part of it where they're just like, we're not going to do that. So here's the figures, which are going to come out at like the end of the year. And then here's some watches. And then that's about it. So I'm hoping that we get some genuine good 30th anniversary merch. I do know that there's I forgot what they even call it, but it's like the trilogy on the Switch, where I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's 7, 8, and something else. I don't remember what the third game even is in that little package, but that's like their 30th anniversary thing. It's like, hey, here's like a triple collection, really just for the Switch. It's like, hey, you get like a cool box with it, and then RE9 is like the 30th anniversary game. So those are like the 2 big things we have. We have some amiibos coming out for RE9, but all of that is tied into one game in particular, not counting, of course, the little trilogy collection. So even though we have merch coming out, none of that is really like, hey, this is 30th anniversary stuff, because they would have said it. Like if you watch that showcase, everything was tied into RE9. It was like, here's the Leon figure, and here's the Grace figure, and you can put those figures together, and here's the watch that Leon wears, and here's the one that Grace wears. All that stuff was really just tied to RE9. It wasn't like, hey, in celebrating the 30th anniversary, we're gonna do this, this, and this. It was just like, we're gonna really just celebrate RE9 and make this specific merch. So we need some real 30th anniversary stuff, and I don't know what we should expect, because they never do anything outside of t-shirts, but I would hope that we would get something more intense than, even though they're 1/6 scale statues, they'll call them like figures or whatever, but they're 1/6 scale. they're just like, they're all right. I stopped buying them once, like after the 3 remake, I was like, all right, I'm done with collector's editions. And, it was just keep it nice and simple. And now it's just like, all right, that's all we really have. We haven't heard anything about like actual exclusive merch. The only thing we've gotten so far is like the opera thing, or well, yeah, I guess it would be the opera. No, symphony. That's what it was. I'm like, no, it's close, but it's not the same. But the symphony, and that's about it. Which would be cool to go to if I could afford it and lived in Japan. But we'll see what else they come up with. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be that much, because I feel like and it's possible that as we get closer to 9, it's like, hey, or once 9 is officially released, boom, they flip the switch and it's like, here's all the full-on just Resident Evil franchise stuff. And I can understand that, because if they want to do like full marketing and just be like, hey, RE9, and they can reference like, hey, 30th anniversary, they'll say it a bunch, but it's just focusing on 9 until it releases, I could totally understand that. The main thing is just literally every element of the past, where they just don't tend to do that much for the anniversaries, like I said, outside of a couple of shirts. So I personally would love to see them do some stuff with like genuine merch, like outside of t-shirts. Like if they were doing, if they did like actual 1/6 scale figures, I would love to see that. That's not going to happen. Companies have mentioned on several different occasions that Capcom is kind of tough to work with when it comes to making like 1/6 scale figures. I have a couple myself. There's a company called Damn Toys. They made amazing figures. Absolutely amazing. They're like the best Resident Evil figures out there. And they were officially licensed. And unfortunately, they only got to make like 5 figures. And it was all based on RE2. They made Leon, Claire, Ada, and then they made the alternate costumes for Leon and Claire. And that was it. And I was so excited. I was like, man, they're going to make RE3. I'm going to get Jill in like her classic RE1 costume. And I was super hyped because they made like amazing figures. They put like every effing item in the game in with the figure. And then it was just like, oh, they just never did Resident Evil 3 remake, because Capcom was just like BSing. And it's super weird. Like, it seems to be a common thing with them. And we've said it a million times. It's like, hey, you guys just want to release the original games? We will buy them again, because it's Resident Evil, a franchise that's gone on for 30 effing years. I'm pretty sure the people that have been there since the beginning would buy the original trilogy if you made like a classic collection. But they just don't seem to want money. They just don't seem to want it. So they'll have something set up for like half a second. It's like, oh, this is amazing, and people will buy it. And then they're just like, they kind of, it just falls to the wayside. They just don't really care about it. And then they just don't have merch. And I guess for them, t-shirts t-shirts are easy. So I don't know. I would love to see actual figures. Like if we went back to just, for the 30th anniversary at least, and I would hate that it would be so rare, but if they were just like, hey, we're working with these companies and we're busting out like action figures, Resident Evil action figures, that would be amazing. Sadly, I just don't see it really happening, but that's what I would love to see. I would love to see them do that and be like, hey, kind of like the old days when it was like RE2. I think they stopped at RE2, if I'm not mistaken, at least for a long time, because I don't think they made any Jill figures. No, there's Nemesis stuff. So they made RE3 figures as well, and I know they made some stuff for RE4. Although I don't know if Code Veronica ever really got any love. I'm not sure, but I have to look into that, because I've never wanted to go backwards and collect like any of the old action figures or anything, so I'd have to see. But I feel like every time I see people with action figures, is 1, 2, 3. The remake of 1 got some figures in RE4, and I feel like I never see Code Veronica, so I'll have to double check on that. But I would love to see some action figures. Personally, I would love it if they were 1/6 scale figures like the ones I have, whether licensed or unlicensed. I do have some unlicensed Jill figures, but you got to get the character, because Capcom won't do it. So I would love to see that actually take place. I think that would be absolutely amazing. I would love to see them do something really cool, and this is something that I don't think would ever happen. And they've somewhat done it, but it would be really sweet if they made like a collection of the CG movies. If they did like a full set, like a box set where it was all of them like remastered in 4K, which you can basically do. Like they've done like a couple at a time, so you can do that, which is why I don't think that'll happen. But for anyone that's interested, if you go on Amazon, you can find like all the CG movies. They're like in 4K and everything. And I think the first 3 you can get in like a trilogy box set. Or, well, I shouldn't say box set, that makes it sound fancy. It's just a regular case. It's probably got the thing where it's just 3 discs and you just move the little flap in the middle. I think it's just that. But you can get those together, and I think the last 2 movies you can probably get together. Unfortunately, I don't think you can get that show. The one that I don't know why they did. I still think about that a lot, where it's like, why'd they split that up? But it was clearly just another CG movie, but they made it a show on Netflix. But you might be able to buy that one as well, I'm not sure. But like a full box set, if they wanted to do something, like I said, you can get them now. But if they wanted to do something special, I mean, heck, they're putting 3 games together on the Switch. Like, look how amazing this is. It's like, Like, the box looks cool, that's nice, but it's 3 old games on the Switch. Don't get me wrong, Switch 2 is a lot better, but still, like, I'm not spending money on that. I know there are collectors that will. I know there's a bunch of us out there, but I'm on the simpler side of things where I'm like, yeah, I don't need 8 versions of RE1. I just want the games that I had as a kid. And that's really about it. That's all I need. And admittedly, I did buy the vinyl for like every single game, except for the remakes. But other than that, I tend to keep it nice and simple. But I would love to see some actual action figures. I think that would be really cool. If they did merch, like, if they made up like posters, like 30th anniversary posters, that would actually be really cool too. Like, I feel like there's something that they got to be hiding, because they haven't really touched on anything outside of saying like, hey, 30th anniversary. Like, technically they even have a logo, which I think is on the Switch case, where it's like, it's the 30th anniversary set. But that's it. That's the only like official, this is for the 30th anniversary, where it even has the 30th logo on it. Other than that, we've got nothing so far, because I think it really is the marketing push of, hey, yes, it's the 30th anniversary, but of course, we're going to be like, Resident Evil 9, look at Grace, look at Leon, Resident Evil 9, please buy Resident Evil 9. And then once that comes out, especially with it being so early in the year, they'll have the rest of the year, end of February, and then you have the rest of the year to just say Resident Evil as a whole, 30th anniversary. So I'm hoping that that's what the case is. They're doing the marketing push for the actual game that's coming out, which makes perfect sense. And then after that, might be copium. I'm hoping that it transitions to, hey, full-on 30th anniversary. We got the Symphony stuff coming up. If they're doing that, I think there's going to be more. Like, there's no way that's the only thing, where they're just like, hey, Resident Evil Symphony, and then that's it, in like 2 locations. And we'll see, they said it's going to be in the States at some point, so we'll see what the dates and locations are for that. But there's got to be more. There has to be more, and I'm hoping that, I would love to say, like, man, it would be super cool if they were like all in on Resident Evil, and it was like, we got like 3 announcements for games where it was like, yeah, we're actually doing a couple remakes and stuff. I'm not that hopeful. I'm barely hopeful that we're getting more than 30th anniversary t-shirts. Like, I'm being totally honest. Like, I barely expect more than just new t-shirts. I'm hoping we get more than new t-shirts for 30 effing years. But for 20 years, they didn't really do much more either. And for 25, they didn't do much more either. So that's really where this whole discussion comes into play, because it's like, should we expect anything? Is it stupid for us to expect stuff? It's the same with RE9. I'm like, it's the 30th anniversary game. I'm expecting 18 cameos. Like, I need it. Like, everybody should be in this game. It's the 30th anniversary game, and they're going back to Raccoon City. Everybody should show up. But I can't think like that, because I know that's a little bit ridiculous. But I'm still kind of hoping that there's a lot of good surprises, because it is the 30th anniversary game, and that does mean something. It definitely means something. So, same with the game as just them celebrating the 30th in general. I don't know if it's me just being ridiculous or just overconfident or, overly optimistic. But I'm like, man, once the marketing push is done, the game is out, it's selling. I assume it's going to do well. I certainly hope it does well, because I hope to love the game. Once that's done, then it's all Resident Evil. Maybe, well, they won't switch the logo, but I was like, it'd be super sick if they switched it to like the original, like RE1, just the red letters. That'd be kind of sick. And it was like, all right, now we're in the 30th anniversary, and then they just make the logo the old school one. That would be awesome. I doubt that'll happen, but that would be really sweet if they did. And they're like, okay, we're serious. We're gonna do, just all the Resident Evil games. Once again, this is the year to do it. Granted, every anniversary is, but 30 years, why not? What if they did the physical collection? What if they finally were like, hey, we're doing it. It could come out towards the end of the year. They can make it very appropriate. I don't know when September 23rd is, but if it came out on that day, that would be hilarious. But they could do a physical collection. Just, hey, here's Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. You can buy it physical now. And I totally buy it. No reason to do that. I literally have 2 and 3 downloaded. I still have my original 1. Not that I can play it on my PS5. But I have 2 and 3 downloaded on PS5 now that they've re-released those. But I'd still buy it. To have Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 physical, I would love to do that. I would assume if they did that, they would end up playing just like the PS5 versions. So it's kind of hard to tell. I think it would be sweet if they did it where they had like actual upgrades to them. And honestly, I've said this forever. I was like, if they do a physical collection, they should do every single version of every game. I know that's work, but admittedly, it's not nearly as much work as making a brand new Resident Evil. If they were just like, okay, here's RE1, here's the Sega Saturn RE1. And you just pick the versions, or if they just combine them all. I think that might actually be more complicated than just picking the different versions so you can go through with the costume. It would be sweet if they did an amalgamation. That would be kind of sick, but I wouldn't expect that to happen. I think it would be more likely that it would be like, hey, here's Resident Evil 1 in like the 18 different versions it came in, because Resident Evil 1 has 8 million versions outside of just the consoles, and then you got the director's cut, then DualShock, and all that good stuff. There'd be like 18 versions of RE1. But I would love to see that. If they're like, hey, here's RE1, here's RE2, here's the PlayStation, PC, N64, even GameCube version, if they wanted to do that. I feel like that's really just up-res for graphics, so they probably wouldn't, the GameCube versions probably wouldn't be their own specific thing. But I would love to see that. They just do 1, 2, and 3, but it still ends up being like 10 games in one because you have like a million variations on 1 and 2. I would love that. Once again, probably a bit too hopeful. I don't really think it'll happen, but I would love to see that happen. I would love it if it was just physical, even if they didn't do what I would hope for, which is like, here's every version. I wouldn't, if I'm being realistic, I wouldn't expect that. That would just be the best thing to do because it would be super cool. But even if it was just a physical version, I still buy it. Because it's like, hey, I want Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 physical. I would love to have them like in a singular collection. That would be a really cool thing to have. Just physically, it'd be like, hey, I got the games. You can play them on modern consoles. You have it. It's not just download it. Although, shout out to GOG. I mentioned them before. They have 1, 2, and 3 if you want to have the games, and then they're yours forever as long as you save the files. There you go. I don't know how they do things as far as like re-downloading games on GOG, so I'm not sure about that. Like, if you lost the computer, could you just log in? That stuff I don't know. You'd have to figure that out for yourself. But they have 1, 2, and 3, and you can just buy them, and you get the PC versions, and then they're yours forever. So if you are looking for modern versions, if you don't want to do the PS5 versions, you can do GOG, and then they give you like the actual executable files, which means that you literally own the game. It's not like the Steam stuff where technically you're kind of renting. Also, same with digital games, they can kind of just cut that off and then you don't have it. With GOG, you own it forever. So just want to randomly throw that out there for people that are unaware of that little loophole that they have when it comes to getting games on GOG. It is legit yours forever, and it's worth getting there. Also, they have Dino Crisis as well. But back to Resident Evil. 30th anniversary. I expect shirts. Oddly enough, I don't even expect posters. I feel like shirts are so simple that that's all they ever do. But it would be cool if they made like a really nice art piece of all the characters. We had like the one piece that they do have, which I'm sure is going to end up as a poster, where it's like all the characters dressed really fancy and stuff, and they're it's almost like a gothic art piece where they're all lined up. I'm sure that's going to end up being a poster if it's not already. So that's like the one real 30th anniversary piece we got, is like that, and then the symphony and the box set are like the 3 things we have where it's like, this is a Resident Evil 9 merch to celebrate that game and boost it up. This is actual 30th anniversary stuff. But that's only 3 things. So I'm hoping we get some more serious stuff. I would love to see some events pop up. I don't think that's gonna happen, and if it does, I'll be super upset because I know I'm not gonna experience it, because it'll be in like LA or something where they're like, hey, here's like a one night only thing at some amusement park, and it's like, cool. Or it'll be off in Japan. Like, I always wish I could have gone to that Resident Evil bar when that was set up in Japan, and sadly, I did not. But I would love for them to do like some cool pop-up stuff where they have like merch. I would love for it to pop up in Michigan because that would be great. But we need something. We need more than t-shirts. That's the only thing. I'm just like, every year or every anniversary, it's the same thing. We got the pin one time. I think the 20th anniversary was when they had the pin, and it was like the inverted colors, which looked really sick. So that was cool, but it was also like one tiny pin. I think it was from the 20th anniversary where they made the RPD badge. It was like a magnetic RPD badge. That was pretty cool. I ended up buying that off of eBay years later, but I was like, okay, that's pretty sweet. I do like that. I like that badge. But we need some official merch. Like, you can buy the keys from Resident Evil like a million times over on Etsy or eBay or somewhere else. And there's a million other things that you can buy that are basically just Resident Evil, but it's never really licensed, even though it's great stuff. Like, I'm not saying don't buy it, because admittedly, if you don't buy it, you won't have any Resident Evil merch, because somehow a franchise 30 years in the making, barely any merch. It's insane. I think, honestly, it is the biggest franchise that has, like, obviously it has merch, but it feels like there's never anything for us to buy, and it's insane. Granted, Capcom kind of does that in general. Like, even Street Fighter, I feel has more, like, they have, the company's like Udon, so they do like a lot of art books and stuff. You'll get a buttload of Street Fighter stuff, but even then, it's the same stuff. It's always like comics and art books. They don't really have a ton of merch. I mean, they do have a lot of figures, because of course it's a fighting game, so they'll make a ton of action figures from them. I would love it if the companies that made figures, were able to talk to Capcom, and they've been pretty consistent when it comes to the Street Fighter thing. If you guys look up like Jada Toys, and I think Storm Collectibles, I'm pretty sure did they may have done Street Fighter, but I know Storm Collectibles has done Mortal Kombat, but Jada Toys for sure has done like 1/12 scale figures. They've done a buttload of Street Fighter stuff, and it's like, hey, they're consistently making different characters. They can easily, for one effing year, just say like, hey, we transitioned over a little bit. Capcom said, celebrate the 30th, so here's some Resident Evil stuff. All I need is just like some cool OG Resident Evil characters. If I could just get Jill, Chris, and Barry, I'd be set. I would love it if Rebecca was in there too. But I don't even need Wesker. But if I could get the whole team, well, the whole living team is what I'm gonna call that. But if I could get the whole living team, that would be fantastic. You want to throw Richard in there too. Technically, he got some lines. He got effed up, but he was in there. Monsters, like he was in there. So he could get a figure too. But that's all I need. That's all I need. It would just be RE1. I would love it, if they did 1, 2, and 3, that'd be expensive because, let's be honest, they put them all out at the same effing time and I'd suffer. But that's all we need. I would love figures from like all the different games, honestly. Like if I could get the main group from RE1, RE2, I could get a couple characters. Honestly, if it was RE2, I'd probably only get Claire. I'm not even gonna lie. I can't front. I don't think I'd even waste the money on Leon. I don't hate Leon, but I've always been a Claire person. OG Resident Evil, I'll buy everybody because it's the first game. The second one is like, I'm gonna get Claire. I might get Ada, but if they did 4 figures, I'd probably get Ada from that one instead because I like the outfit more. Well, I guess it would depend on if it was the original 4 or if it was the remake 4. I like their original, like the dress. It's ridiculous that she wore that dress, but that's Ada, femme fatale. So it would depend what they do, and I'm having all these hopes and dreams. It might not get a single figure, but if at the very least they just did Resident Evil 1, and they're like, here's Jill, Chris, Rebecca, Barry, Wesker, possibly Richard. That's all I need. That's all I would need, and then they would put some in. They would at least put the Tyrant in there. You got to either put the Tyrant or the Hunter in there. That would be cool. Get RE2 comes out, get a Birkin figure, get Claire. RE3 comes out, get RE3 Jill. I'd have to get Carlos, and then of course you get Nemesis. Maybe you get a Licker from RE2 as well, and then that's about it. They just the original trilogy, and they probably do what everybody does. It's like 1, 2, and 3, and then we ignore Code Veronica. Very harsh, but if that got figures, that would be super cool too. I don't know if anybody would buy Steve though, so they might not do it. But just some figures. That's it. Nice and simple. That's really, I don't think that it's not too much to ask for. Like I'm saying, I don't think it's not too much to ask for. It's just that they don't seem to want money. They just don't seem to care. They literally had a company making 1/6 scale figures. If you've never heard of Damn Toys, by the way, just look up Damn Toys Resident Evil. You'll see the figures that they have. They had some 1/12 scale figures, I believe, but the 1/6 scale figures, absolutely amazing. And I was so excited. I thought they were gonna do the RE3 remake, and I was like, oh man, I can't wait for that to come out. I was gonna get Jill. I was gonna get her classic costume. I probably would have bought Carlos as well. And then 4, I would have been like, cool, I can get Leon, I can get Ada. I was so excited. And then it was like, yeah, Capcom just wouldn't talk to us basically. And so they just had to stop making figures. That's insane to me. So we will see what happens, honestly, with this 30th anniversary. I hope it's amazing. I hope they put out some merch that's like, hey, we actually care this time. Here's more than a t-shirt. I would love some figures. I don't think, because we've already had vinyl, I don't think they would do anything else with that outside of, I think the Village vinyl. Ooh, I might need to look into that because I might need to pick up those vinyls. I haven't checked in a minute. But I think those are already out, pretty much like 7 and 8. I know I have the 4 vinyl, which was like insanely huge. And then I think I have 7. And then I have to wait and see about 8. Actually, no, I think I have 8. I'm gonna have to look at my vinyls and make sure I'm not behind. Anyway, I'm hoping we get more than just the t-shirts that we get and maybe like some pins and stuff like that. But honestly, we'll have to wait and see. And I'm hoping, like I said, my main thing as far as hope is like, I can hold out hope until RE9 comes out. I'll give it like maybe 2 weeks for RE9. So let's say halfway through March, and then it's like, okay, now we transition to Resident Evil as a brand. Resident Evil 30th anniversary. I'll give RE9 like 2 weeks after release. And then I'm just be like, that's where the hope is. That's the end of hope for me. It's like, hey, the game comes out, that's where the marketing push is. I totally understand that from a business perspective. And then you transition to the company as a whole. I hope that's what they do. I hope we get more than just an announcement. I do hope that we get another announcement as far as, I do hope it's Code Veronica as the remake. But outside of that, we need more than shirts. They got to do more. I don't expect them to do anything with the movies. Like, those are good. You can buy them. You can even buy them in collections already. So those are pretty set. They've been doing vinyl for years now, so I don't think anything special will really come from that because it's kind of been, fairly consistent. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm just too hopeful because it's the 30th. They're putting out a game on the 30th. I think it's the first time we've had one during the actual anniversary. But no, that might not be true. I think no, RE3 Remake was 2020. So super close, but it was like before the 30th. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I would love to know what you guys think. Like, what do you guys want to see from the 30th anniversary? Like I said, for me, my main thing is I really just want us to get something different because all we ever get, a couple of shirts, great shirts, beautiful shirts. I love the shirts, but I want more. I want a lot more than that. Like, I want to go on the Capcom store and be able to buy something cool. Like, they don't even, like, and it's crazy. I don't know if I just spend the money on it. They don't even do simple crap like tumblers or any just dumb stuff where it's like, you get a little cup for some water or something. They don't even do that. They literally just be like, here's some t-shirts, like, leave. And that's it. Like, dang, like anything. I mean, anything else. So I hope we get something special. And I hope for the 30th, they really listen to the fact that people actually want to spend money. That's the craziest thing is like, it's always, the suits and all that crap, but it's like the simplest things you don't bother doing to make money. You can put the games out physically. You'll make money. You could just do new figures. Like, honestly, like even if they straight up reissued old figures, they wouldn't be the old ones because they literally make toys better than that. But just remake some figures. To be like, boom, here's Resident Evil 1, 1/12 scale. That's all I would need. Have them like in their costumes, give them all their weapons and stuff like that. That's all you gotta do. People will buy the crap out of that. Some good RE figures, we never have them. And if you do have them, they're most likely 1/6 scale, but there's some 1/12 scale. If you want some Resident Evil figures, they are out there, by the way. If you haven't gotten into like figure collecting, I promise you they are out there. 1/6 scale is my thing because I just like the larger figures for my photography, but they do have 1/12 scale that has a lot of detail too. So definitely look into all that stuff. You can find some amazing figures out there already, but it would be nice if there was some licensed stuff. It would also be really nice if it was licensed for the original Resident Evil. That's kind of the thing. Like, everything will be like whatever's most current is what you can buy stuff for. We need to go back a little bit. Like, give us Resident Evil 1, give us some Resident Evil 2, some Resident Evil 3 stuff, like original versions, and I'll be happy. So I hope we get some good stuff this year, outside of 3 old games put on the Switch 2 and a symphony that nobody can afford to travel to. I hope we get more. But I would love to know what you guys think Capcom should be doing for the 30th anniversary of Resident Evil, whether it's releases or at the very least announcement. I don't think they're gonna release anything. If they did a shadow drop of the classic trilogy physical, that would be insane. But at max, I'm expecting announcements. And even then, I'm like, maybe by the end of the year, we'll get some announcements. But I would love to know what you guys think Capcom should be doing for the 30th anniversary of my favorite franchise. If it's yours, even if it's not, if you just like Resident Evil, what should Capcom be doing? Because they aren't really doing much to celebrate the franchise outside of making a game and saying you can buy this expensive effing watch if you want, or another expensive effing watch, or an expensive effing figure, or a second expensive effing figure. What do you guys think they should be doing? So please, put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.